Hi Stuart, thanks very much for the question with regards to your Hotpoint heat pump tumble dryer. Now I haven't got one in the workshop at the moment, but I'm going to explain some of the problems that you may have and also how to diagnose the problem. I'll put a link in the description to a page where I'll put all the relevant videos for you to have a look at, and also exploded diagrams of your machine and links to any spare parts that you require. Let me just quickly run through the faults that you're describing. You've got this Hotpoint NTM1192XBUK heat pump tumble dryer, and you're suspecting that you had a problem with no water being collected in the actual collection tray at the top. I'm having to use a Zanussi heat pump tumble dryer here to explain to you because I don't have a Hotpoint in the workshop. You're telling me that after checking the pump and everything, you have found out that you're getting no heat in the drum. And I'm quickly going to explain how the heat pump dryers work and things that you need to be checking. Now, the big problem with heat pump tumble dryers are they are great, very efficient. They use a lot less electricity than vented and condenser tumble dryers, but they cost a lot more, the actual cost of the machine. And many engineers will tell you that heat pump tumble dryers, after they get to 4 or 5 years old, are failing. And they're either failing from one of three things. Either the actual evaporator and condenser, which is at the bottom of the machine behind here, builds up with fluff. And if you look in here, you can actually see the state of this machine. This fluff buildup stops the airflow going through the machine, and therefore it takes a lot longer to dry the clothes because of bad maintenance. Now, as you've said to me in the email, you did clean the filters on regular occasions, but let me explain these filtration systems. Machines that were manufactured 4 or 5 years ago had just a basic, simple, single filter system. I've just been to the trade show in Berlin recently, and I noticed all the heat pump tumble dryers now are using a much more complex filter system. This is because all the manufacturers are fully aware of the problem of the condensing and evaporating plate at the bottom gets moist, and particles of dust, even though you have a filter system, will always eventually get down to this area, and they constantly build up with fluff, and the fluff sticks to water, and therefore you end up with blockages on the system. The other two problems that can occur with these heat pump tumble dryers is the compressor may not be running, therefore unable to pump the refrigeration gases through the system, or they end up with a leak on the system and you lose the gas. And if you lose the gas, it is unable to heat or condense the warm moist air back into molecules to be pumped up to the collection tray. On both of these occasions, if the compressor has failed or you have lost gas, it is totally uneconomic for you to repair it. The costs of getting someone out to regas or change the compressor on a heat pump tumble dryer is just ridiculous compared to the cost of replacing the machine. And I'm sorry to say that according to the new legislations that are coming out in the EU now, I think vented and condenser tumble dryers are eventually going to be abolished, which is ludicrous because tumble dryers, when it comes to heat pump tumble dryers, are great. But if they're only lasting 4 or 5 years, then why bother? Because all these machines are going to end up in a landfill, and the only thing it works for is the manufacturers selling more machines all the time. A vented tumble dryer is very economic to repair. A condenser tumble dryer is very economic to repair. If the heating system goes, you can replace it for £30–40. But if the compressor goes on a heat pump tumble dryer, it's going to cost you £100 for the compressor. Then it has to be gassed, and it has to be done by someone who is a refrigeration engineer or someone who has got the gassing capabilities. And the repair for this is going to be £300–400, which makes it totally uneconomic to repair. Things you need to be checking on your dryer. First thing you need to do is check whether the compressor is running. There may be a sensor that is stopping the compressor running. Now, I don't get the workshop manuals off Hotpoint, so it's very hard for me to actually point you into where to look. But first thing you need to be doing is checking whether the compressor is getting the correct voltage to be able to run. If it isn't, you may have a sensor failure, which could be a cheaper repair. It is worth cleaning all this area out completely, because if it has a bad airflow going through the machine, then the compressor may not be starting because of this. There are lots of sensors on these machines, and it is very difficult to ascertain what is the problem. If the compressor is running, but it's not getting warm, you've either got a blockage in the system which is not allowing the warm air to get through to the drum, or it is low on gas. If it is low on gas, as I said, it is uneconomical to repair. So all I can advise you to do is check if the compressor is running, check that the heat pump tumble dryer is actually, if it is running, check the temperatures on the evaporator and condenser plate. You should be getting a very cold temperature on one of the plates and a warm temperature on the other plate. Apart from that, without having the machine in front of me, it is very hard for me to actually point you in the exact direction of the fault. But follow these simple procedures, and I'll put some other information on the link in the description to take you through to the web page, where I'll put all the relevant information, including exploded diagrams of your machine and links to parts. But I don't have the workshop manual, I'm sorry, to allow you to enter test mode or anything else, as Hotpoint don't give this out to the general public. Maybe they will be in the future, because Hotpoint now has been taken over by BUK. And BUK are very good at supplying this information, but the Whirlpool group, who previously owned Hotpoint, did not disclose the information to most of the engineers. So I hope all this information helps you. Good luck with your repair.